That mean my mic is on?
It does.
Good morning. I'm going to call this meeting to order. We'll call to order the meeting of the Central Valley Flood Protection Board, Friday, November 17th, 2023. I have to look because last time I did that, I said the wrong year. So good morning and welcome to you all. Welcome to my board members. You'll notice that there is a sign there for Mr. Countryman, board member. He is not feeling exactly well. It is not COVID. He's going to participate online. And I don't know if that means he is passive or is he called upon to vote. There was legislation there that changed. Never mind, we'll just figure it out. We have one action today, so if we just need to do it with 6, I think we'll be okay. And welcome to those of you who are in the audience. I see staff and I see our fan club as well, and then others. And we have everyone who's logged on is on accepted, and you're watching that. Okay, thank you for that. So the first thing that I'm going to ask is that we establish a meeting quorum, and I ask our executive officer to call out board members for that. Just look at them. No, I don't.
Member Bosler.
I'm here.
Member Ramirez.
Here.
Member Griego.
Here.
Secretary Johnson.
I'm here. Good morning.
Vice President Valines.
Here.
President Dolan.
I'm here.
And Member Countryman.
Mr. Countryman, can you unmute and say hello?
I'm trying.
Okay, we hear you.
Online.
Okay, we hear you. We have 6 board members present here in the room and 1 online, so that is a quorum. Whether we determine we can count Mr. Countryman or not, it's a quorum. So I will now ask our executive officer if there are any introductions or announcements to be made.
Yes, I have 2 announcements. So I'm sad to announce that Wendy Valdez will be leaving the board. Her last day with us will be December 8th. Wendy started with the board as a youth aide in 2016, then moved up to student assistant, office technician, and to staff service analyst in 2020. She has earned a reputation as a great team player. She not only was instrumental in meeting the Sacramento levy section and administration branch needs, but also provided board meeting support, IT support, website management, help for procurement, permit intake, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like I said, a great team player. She's known to have excellent work habits, to be well organized and dependable. We wish her the very best in her new position as an IT specialist at Department of Social Services. So thank you, Wendy.
So Wendy Valdez, you are briefly on our screen, but would you stand so we can be sure that we know who you are? And I'm saddened that you're going. You have been excellent, but I do wish you well. Thanks. She said, well, I've been here for a while and it's time for a change. And I reminded her that I served 32 years on a board. Oh. A little different with how long we want to stay somewhere. But I wish you well. Thank you for everything that you have done for us. And I'm sure we'll do the best we can to find a Wendy number 2.
She can't be replaced.
I don't know, you could not exactly be replaced, but you will do the best you can to find good folks. Okay.
On a happier note, I am pleased to announce our new board executive assistant, Jonah Knapp. Jonah earned his bachelor's degree in general communications from Sacramento State. His experience in research, writing, and forming and building relationships will be a great asset in this role. Of note, Jonah worked for the board in 2020 as a student assistant while he attended university and has been looking for the right opportunity to return because he believes in the board's mission. We are excited to have him join us again, and we are confident he will be successful in his new role. Welcome, Jonah.
Yeah, welcome. Glad to have you on board. And you told me when we spoke briefly before it started that you somewhat knew about this because you worked as a student assistant, so, yeah, that's great.
So those are my announcements.
Okay, that takes care of the announcements, and no introduction to be made? You just did. Announcements were also introductions. Thank you. Now I'll just briefly review the agenda. I want to note that we do not have minutes before us today. They're just not ready. Shortened meeting schedule there, so the October ones will be before us when they're ready. We have 3 consent items. They're all taken with one motion unless someone on the board or in the audience, virtual or present, wanted to remove one. So just want to remind you of that. Item number 6 is called public comments. This is for comments or information for items that are within the jurisdiction of the board but are not on today's agenda. And when we call for those, there's a time limit of 3 minutes. Just warning you. Item 7, we note submittal of a legislative update that our executive officer puts together with staff, and we'll just note that unless someone wants to ask a question or make a comment. Item number 8 is a reservation for the Army Corps of Engineers when they have a presentation, and they don't, but we have it on our agenda as a placeholder. The next item is a submittal. We have received a submittal of an informational report from Department of Water Resources, but I understand that they will have no oral presentation for that. And if you received a prior agenda that indicated we have an item 10, we don't. What was on the first notice of the agenda of item 10, that item has been removed. It's not before us today. And then we have each of our branches and divisions present information. So I'm going to ask each of them if they have a highlight they want to speak about rather than just having us read it. Item 12 is when board members also provide updates of committee assignments, activities, or comments or ideas. Then we talk about our next meeting dates. There is to be no closed session today, so there is no closed session report. And that's the agenda. It seems to be a relatively short meeting. As soon as I say that, it will not be, but I think it will. So it will proceed that way. I'm certain there's no lunch break because we'll adjourn before noon, I believe. But know that I do call breaks when I want to, but not right away. So there we are. Let's proceed. We have done welcome, we've done the roll call, we've reviewed the agenda, we're skipping the minutes, we're at the consent item. There are 3. Permit number 19606 for a barn to be constructed on property along County Road Y in Glenn County. This is east of the Sacramento River and south of Highway 162. It's in the Butte Basin, and the permit holder name is Eck. That's the last name. The next one is initial statement of no objection, which we are asked to approve to send to the Army Corps of Engineers, requesting that they, the USAs, evaluate the Section 408 request to alter levees of the Sacramento River Flood Control Project in the vicinity of the town of Colusa. These are, it's on the consent because it's regular for us to do that. Permit number 3520-1 is bridge replacement, the Hills Ferry Road bridge replacement, replacing an old bridge with one that is better, and it's located in Stanislaus County. This is an action, the consent is an action taken with one vote unless someone wishes to remove an item. Board members want to remove an item. I see none. Anyone in the audience want to remove an item? I see none. Anyone online with a hand up? There are none. So I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? I'll make the motion. Motion by Member Grego. Second by Member Johnson. Mr. Wright, I forgot to ask you if they are indeed in order.
Good morning, President Dolan, members of the board. Michael Wright, Chief Engineer. Yes, the consent items are in order.
Please call the roll.
Member Bosler.
Aye.
Member Ramirez.
Aye.
Member Countryman.
You have to come back to him.
Member Griego.
Yes.
Secretary Johnson.
Aye.
Vice President Lyons. President Dolan.
Yes.
Member-
Mr. Countryman, do you want to weigh in? Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
You are echoing. Okay. I'm going to say that vote is unanimous. In the review of the minutes, we'll figure out if that's 6 and then 1 that just was participating remotely. Okay. Those items are approved. Member Bosler.
I just have a comment on the third item, the bridge replacement. And I think it was interesting when I looked at it because it looks like the modeling was done at a higher CFS than the old bridge. But I really do think that there's a role that we can play here at the state in helping locals who do need to replace old infrastructure. Totally get that and need to do that. But also we want it to last for a long time. And so as we are thinking about the hydrology on these systems, and I was really excited to see the kickoff in the DWR report of the floodplain mapping pilot. I just think that there's a lot we can do with the information and the science that DWR is investing in to really support locals and making really good decisions around infrastructure. And I think we have an opportunity to help support them in that.
Well noted. And thank you for saying that. Now it's in the minutes, and I know our permitting staff is listening, writing it down. And we'll take that into consideration as these are reviewed. Would have to be earlier than that. The project proponents and the engineers will need to start doing that analysis before permits are submitted as well. I'm looking. Anyone else? Okay. And we can move on. Item number 6 is public comment. As I said before, this is a time for matters that are not on the agenda, and I have 4 cards here, so I'll call on them in the order that I have them. Within our jurisdiction, not on the agenda, don't talk for a long time, cut you off. Mr. Engler. We always start this off with you, and I'm pleased to do that.
President Dolan, members of the board, Tom Engler, MBK Engineers, here on behalf of the Central Valley Flood Control Association. And once again, we wanted to emphasize the issues we're having with the PL 8499 program. We wanted to thank you all for sending the letter to the Corps of Engineers about our concerns with PL 8499. We think that's very helpful. We're hearing it's already getting traction, so thank you for that. Also want to again reiterate that DWR is doing a fantastic job of evaluating and adding sites, getting those repaired before the flood season. So thank you to DWR for their efforts. Now back to PL 8499. We've collectively worked very hard over the last decade to get all these LMAs on board, doing LOIs, SWIFTs, getting them eligible for PL 8499. There's a lot of districts that are now questioning why'd we do that. If our sites aren't getting repaired, why are we going through this dramatic effort? So that's starting to become a problem. Trust is definitely fading, so we want to make sure that we don't lose all the momentum we have in the PL 8499 front. And I think our suggestion today is that the board needs to probably establish a regular meeting with the colonel. We've heard through the grapevine that the district commanders are the ones that really drive PL 8499 in their district, and they haven't heard much from the Sacramento district on PL 8499 this year. So we need to establish regular meetings and start getting in front of the colonel so that the colonel knows what our issues are and can push those up the chain as needed. So with that, I can answer any questions. If there's no questions, thank you.
Questions? I don't have a question, but thank you for that. I was unaware that there was not feedback from Sacramento District, and we've met with 3 colonels so far. There's a little bit of a rotation going on because of staffing issues, so we're working on a meeting, and we'll definitely bring it up. Thanks. Mr. Harriman?
Madam President, could I wait until after Mr. Corrigan's presentation, please?
Yes, you may. Patrick Porgins. Mr. Porgins knows that I know him and that he can speak eloquently at length, but I told him that he really can't.
I appreciate that.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning to all the board members, and I want to thank you for everything you've done thus far to try to improve flood control in the state of California. Taking into account, we're not really prepared for climate change, and recognizing the fact that we have had significant amounts of flood damages here, and we keep repeating the same situation. So what I'm here to talk about is not just about dam operations, because I know that's really not in your purview. I'm talking about how the dams operate and how they affect the flood control system. Now, on the Feather River in particular, since 1950, we've had about 21 flood disasters. Now, that's pretty phenomenal. And we found that the Department of Water Resources is one of the major problems in terms of the flood problems that we've had here. That's because they misoperate the flood control facilities, and I have all the manuals. I've been monitoring the operation of all Section 7 reservoirs since 1985. And what I do is I check to see if the operators are compliant. Because the way it works, DWR monitors itself. There's no enforcement on behalf of the Corps of Engineers. It just doesn't happen. The law's not set up that way. So what I'm here to say is that I got to compliment the Department of Water Resources at this point, because they dropped the reservoir down to 2.3, million acre feet, which is a good step. But I need to remind you that under a standard project flood, we can have 440,000 CFS coming in over a 72-hour period, with about 1.5 million acre feet coming into the reservoir. So that space is already gone. We have insufficient space up there. That's the problem. And the other problem that we've had in the past is DWR stores too much water in the reservoir, and then when the floods come, they have to drop too much water out, which then exacerbates the problem. The problem in the Achilles heel on the Feather River is the fact that the downstream channels are not designed to handle the amount of water that can come out of Oroville. On the new spillway, which is already cracking, 250,000 CFS can come out of there. But a total, if you get up at 900 feet, we're talking about 646,000 CFS coming down there. That's as much water as the entire Sacramento flood control system handles. So we got a problem here. So I'm asking the board to try to encourage the governor to ensure that the Department of Water Resources conducts itself accordingly. My last comment here, and I'm here because I'm in the public's interest, and for the people that are so disenfranchised, I would like this board to consider sending a letter over to the governor to ensure that the Department of Resources complies with those laws. Because if they don't, when we have a disaster, and they've been caught on several occasions where they were held responsible, but didn't pay for the damages. 2 of your board members asked that question last time I was here. The people of California are paying, and the people that are in those reclamation districts, when DWR shuns too much water and destroys the levees, they're paying. DWR doesn't pay. So we need to have a mechanism by which we know that they're being held accountable for the safety and well-being of all Californians. So that's what I have to say.
I got here this morning, we all got here, you've given us 11 pages. I'm not going to sit here and read it. We will, and we know how to contact you if we've got.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, you would like me to come here and give you some more detail on this, I only have about 40 years involved in water, so.
I know you do, and you've given us 11 pages, so thank you for that.
And thank you also.
Mr. Fowler? And then you, Mr. Harriman, because he said Porgan's associate. I thought would be related.
Morning, y'all. My name is
Good
John
morning.
Fowler. I've not done this kind of thing before, but I'm an associate of Mr. Porgan's and a friend, and I have seen his years and years of work with regard to the problems that we're having with flooding. And I'm just here to share with you all today. Did you get the packet that Patrick sent out to everyone? Okay. He wanted me to discuss and point out the lack of advance evacuation notification, which occurred on February 12, 2017. And it goes on, and it cites some phone calls, and apparently nothing was done or being done. His other concern that he wanted me to express about was a lack of advance evacuation notification. Apparently it was the rule rather than the exception. So I guess the gist of all of that is there an effective program going on right now that is evaluating and analyzing these arc storms that are coming? And I come from a kind of a different angle. I'm an author of a book, and in chapter 49 of 49 of the book, I talk about CME and the sun, and that's coronal mass ejections. Since 1755, we have had 11-year cycles of the sun swapping north and south. When that occurs, and you get into the first 1/3 of that 11-year cycle, stuff starts happening here on this planet. And if you're familiar with the most recent news of the magma and the scare that's going on in Iceland, what's happening and what's going on? In 2019, we began our 25th cycle of that 11-year thing.
1 minute.
And thank you. And the sun, as that thing is swapping, during that 11-year period, between 4 and 8 years, bad stuff goes on. Now, I don't know if an engineer has been doing a study or an analysis on this, but it needs to be looked into. Because every time that kind of thing happens, we have disasters. There is a developing trend in our past history. And as you go back in those 11 years, you can see that there were storms after storms that have been going on. And I don't think that our watersheds can handle an arc storm or a river. The sun is one of the chief causes. It's also the chief cause of the global warming that's going on. And consideration needs to be made for
Got to
that.
wrap up.
Okay, thank you. I'll try better next time.
You're fine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. If you want to give the name of your book to our clerk over here, that would be fine. Mr. Harriman? You said you wrote a book? If you want to give that name to our clerk over there, that would be fine. Mr. Harriman, good morning.
Good morning, President Dolan, honorable members of the board, staff, and public. My name is Richard Harriman. I'm a public interest attorney with offices in Chico and Hanford. I'm here before the board this morning to very briefly support the submittal of Mr. Porgan's and to commend to your attention his fact sheet that's been transmitted to all of you and your staff. And my very focused comment would be that I would really appreciate it if you invoke your partnership relationship with DWR to follow up on Mr. Porgan's recommendations. Finally, I state this to you as one of the attorneys who represented the plaintiffs in the Oroville Dam litigation that started in 2018 and was finally settled. But the lessons that were learned from that are writ large by Mr. Porgan's presentation and the facts and science and data that he's provided you. Finally, I come to you from the second annual State of the Basin Conference held in Tulare on Wednesday, November 15th. Unfortunately, without President Dolan, because we would really have enjoyed having you there. But what I wanted to say was the theme and title of that conference and the focus of the scientific evidence that was presented by the UC Merced board from the A&R school was management of hyperclimatic extremes. And that's exactly what Mr. Porgens and others of us who have been in the public interest movement or effort to try to bring these important public health and safety issues to the public's attention, and particularly to your board, which I think, as a matter of law, statute, and under the public trust doctrine, provide you with the duty and responsibility to engage with the other agencies, state and federal, DWR, FEMA, OES, because you're concurrent jurisdiction as to the latter part, which is what happens with the damage. But the unique feature of your board and your charge statutorily and your relationship with the governor and the administration is that you're trying to head off problems. You're not there to clean them up. You're there to protect the public health and safety, as well as property and economic stability of a community as large as Sacramento. If there's another failure at the Oroville Dam by virtue of human error or overwhelming by the climate arc storm that Mr. Porgens speaks of, there won't be enough money to take care of the public damage. It won't be enough money to cover the economic loss in the Sacramento area or in the Causeway. I thank you very much for the opportunity to appear and really appreciate the way your board invites public comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I suspect I'll see you next month as well.
President Dolan, I'd just like to note we did receive one public comment letter late last night from Kevin King, General Manager for RD 1000, and it has been forwarded to the administrative team to make sure that it gets added to the record. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. That came from Mr. Dua, our counsel. We have someone else? Oh. Ms. Terry, good morning. I saw you come in. I thought there's no card. Yes, there is. Melinda Terry, good morning.
Good morning. I'm Melinda Terry, the Executive Director of the Central Valley Flood Control Association, and yes, I was a few minutes late, so thank you for accommodating me. I'm here to share some good news. On Wednesday, on November 15th, I participated in a tour of the Delta. I didn't do the whole day. My understanding is they got around pretty good to a large area of the Delta. It was organized by the Delta Stewardship Council, and really want to give a shout out to their staff, because over my 40-year career, I have attended a lot of tours. I used to work for forestry, so I've done forestry and then a lot of water tours. This was the largest attendance of legislative staff I've ever seen. There was about 20 to 25 legislative staff. Never in my 40 years have I seen that many legislative staff. So shout out to, I think Brandon might have been in charge of this, but again, very, very impressed. But we were grateful that they did invite DWR and the association we came at the end of the tour, which is why I didn't attend the whole thing, to talk about flood control. So I just wanted to make you aware that that did occur, and we had a really good discussion, and the association's lobbyist, Bob Reeb, I'm gonna have him follow up with each of those staff. I think there was even one Department of Finance staff person there, I believe. But I just wanted to share that really good news with you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that took care of the cards, but if someone really wants to get up, we have a hand up.
One hand raised online.
Who would that be?
Jay Punya.
Well, that's a name we know, Mr. Punya. Jay Punya, you have a comment to make for us? And you got a minute.
Good morning, President Dolan and board members.
Okay, I'm joking.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My name is Jay Punia. I'm with Wood Rogers and engineer for Reclamation District 2035. I just want to inform the board that RD 2035 submitted 10 sites to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers under PL 8499, but the Corps rejected our sites. But I want to commend the board and the DWR staff that they stepped up and repaired the critical sites under the 2023 storm damage DWR flood contingency program. And on behalf of RD 2035, we really appreciate that the critical sites are taken care before the real high water situation. Just want to share with the board that we do appreciate that the board and the DWR staff worked and took care of the most critical sites. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that recognition. People tell me that I'm humorous. Sometimes I take it too long. Mr. Puna was executive officer of the Flood Board a while ago, so we do know who he is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Puna, for that comment. We try to get all the work done. It's a challenge, so thank you that there was a success. Any other hands up? Mr. Chavez?
But there are no hands
There are
raised
none.
online.
No one else is inclined to do that. Okay, then we can move on, board? And we will. Item number 7 is a legislative update. We asked that to be submitted to us by executive officer, so we have that. Did you want to highlight anything, Mr. Lee?
Yes, Chris Leaf, Executive Officer. So just a couple of updates since I prepared the report. This isn't breaking news, but Congress has passed and the President has signed a continuing resolution. So there is no government shutdown quite yet, and hopefully there won't be. It's kind of split. There's some funding that's continued to January 19th of next year, and other funding that's continued to February 2nd of next year. Also, while I was in DC this past week, I learned that the notice of proposed rulemaking for the Corps' principal requirements and guidelines is expected to be released within the next few weeks. And then there will be a 60-day comment period on that. So that this is a rulemaking that we have been hoping to see for many months now. So it will be good to get that on the street and be able to comment on it.
Is that what you put there in your October 2nd FEMA? No, FEMA's,
That's
FEMA. This one's a
different.
core. Okay, we're going to pay attention. We've been asking for it. Okay, thank you. Board members have any comments or question on Mr. Leaf's report? None on this side, none on that side. Audience in the room? I see no hands, no one standing. Any hands up? Mr. Chavez?
No hands raised online.
The clock on the wall, straight ahead, says it's 10 minutes to 9, so we clearly started this meeting too early. Perhaps someone in the city of Sacramento heard that. Okay. It does. What? I know it's, turning clocks back is always a chore. Item number 8, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is placeholder. Item number 9, Department of Water Resources submits to us a monthly report, which is always informative. Looks like this. I don't believe it there. I don't see a DWR person in the audience. I'm not sure I know all of you. Is there anyone that with a hand up with the DWR designation that wants to say something? Okay,
No
we were told not to expect that. Do board members want to make any comments? Nope. Nope, okay. Audience? In the room? And no hands up. Okay, thank you, DWR, for that report. Item number 10, gone. Item number 11. This is the time that we get reports from each of our branches and a division. So we heard from our executive officer. Do you have more to say, Mr. Leaf?
I do.
Okay.
There are a few things I just wanted to highlight. So over the past week, I was attending a series of meetings in Washington, D.C. On Tuesday the 14th, I attended an environmental justice meeting session hosted by the National Association of Flood and Stormwater Management Agency, or NAFSMA. The session included presentations from the Corps, EPA, FEMA, the White House Council on Environmental Quality, and the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness. That same day, NAFSMA leadership meeting occurred where we heard additional presentations from the Army Corps of Engineers, EPA, and FEMA. And then the day wrapped with a board meeting for NAFSMA, of which I'm a member. The Flood Board is a member of NAFSMA, and I'm on the NAFSMA board.
Great.
On Wednesday the 15th, NAFSMA held a partnering session with the U.S. Army Corps headquarters leadership. This is a meeting that occurs twice a year, once at the annual conference, which is a shortened meeting, and then we have a longer session. This was the longer session. There are a lot of issues discussed. I just wanted to highlight one, since it's of concern to our community in particular. We discussed the PL 8499 issues that we're experiencing, and the seeming lack of pace of addressing the repair needs in our system. The Corps recognizes the issue at the headquarters level and is committed to looking at ways to speed the process. There were a few specific things discussed that they're going to look into, including using contracted resources to perform initial assessments of the damaged sites, setting up Tiger teams, potentially at the division level is their initial take, but potentially at the national level.
A Tiger team?
A Tiger team, a strike team, something that's outside of the district level, so resources can be concentrated on districts that are experiencing higher degrees of need in this program.
I thought the TIGER stood for something. You were going to say it. It's not an acronym, it's a saying.
I am not aware that that's an acronym, but knowing the Corps, it probably is.
That's why I asked. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry for the interruption.
Lastly, the Corps leadership indicates that the program does have adequate funding, so it's more of a matter of assigning resources to the program to administer it. So those are my highlights.
Mr. Engler, you heard that, right? Yes, you
Thank you.
send someone to DC to work on it. Okay. Thank you for that. Any questions, Mr. Lee? Thanks for that. The next is we received the monthly report on the operations branch, which has 4 units. I probably don't have your names correctly, your identification. Any general comments, Mr. Wright, other than what you wrote?
Other than what was written, I do have one update that I would like to share with the board.
Please.
The Middle Mile Broadband Initiative project that staff has been working on and that the board was receiving monthly updates on. The interagency agreement for that program has been approved and signed by all parties, which will provide resources for board staff to be able to work on the many permits that will be coming through for that project. Igor Leong of board staff has been running point on that. He's done a great job following up and making sure that that was approved and signed. And I would like to thank our administrative staff as well, because they've been extremely helpful in that negotiation process and the contracting process.
Those can be challenging, but this is a super important effort. for the state of California, in particular our rural areas, so we can get going. Thanks for that good news. Does the enforcement section want to augment anything beyond what we have? How about permitting? You don't all know that I'm now going to ask you to say something, so maybe the next time you will. And the reason that I am is we receive an excellent report. We receive it, we read it, we internalize it. If there can be some vocalization of a few items on that at meetings, then we can demonstrate to our broader listening audience and to the public the things that we do. And we do a lot, and I just am proud of that and want folks to know. Member Bosler.
Yeah, no, I reviewed that report, and I wanted to give some kudos to the staff because there's been a lot of work over the last year on this online modernizing the permitting, the online capabilities around permits, which will obviously save permittees time and money in some cases, and so that's really exciting. And I saw that in the design, they did some user-centered design work in working with some people recently, and I just want to say kudos, thank you for doing that, because IT is not, doesn't come off the shelf perfect. Like, you have to really work with people to make sure that it is valuable and makes it actually easier to do the work. And so just appreciate the process there and acknowledge the work. So I wanted to give kudos.
Thank you. I'm glad you did that. Okay. Inspections? Ongoing. Lots of work on that. So inspections give encroachment and others work to do as well. Okay. Thanks for those reports there, operations branch. Flood system improvement branch? Anybody want to augment what's there? You will next time. Mr. Harvey is smiling. He thinks I'm funny. Environmental services and land management. You do a great job. All those land issues and ancient records. Good morning, Ms. Buckley.
Good morning. Andrea Buckley, Manager for Environmental Services and Land Management for the board. Although not in the report, I want to inform the board that we have re-engaged with California Department of Fish and Wildlife on our easement conflict issue related to flood easements and conservation easements, and we look forward to reporting on some resolution in the coming months on that issue.
Good. Good work. Thank you for that. Yeah, that'd be good to know all of those, and let them know our duties in that regard as well. Flood planning and programs.
Good morning, President Dolan. This is Ruth Darling. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Someone stood up, and then we've got a voice on coming forward. Yes. Ms. Darling.
I'm sorry. I couldn't be there in person this morning. I'm with an ill family member. But I did want to highlight for the board the comp study for the YOLO bypass. The federal comp study is well underway for the scoping process. And the flood planning and programs branch staff will be very busy November and December. There's a 3-day charrette in December, and then there's about 7 one-day workshops in December trying to get to the alternatives milestone for March. So I just wanted to highlight the work that we'll be doing over the next 2 months for scoping the YOLO bypass comp study.
Thank you. We'll look forward to report on how those 7 one-day workshops go. That's
it's a lot.
It is a lot. It's compliment our staff because you're responsible for making sure they all happen successfully. So thanks for that. So that is the list of our reports from our staff. Board members have any comments other than kudos? Member Bosler?
I just wanted to talk a little bit about, I just recently, just yesterday, returned from a conference. I'm sure you're familiar with the California State Association of Counties conference.
Oh, really? There's two of us that
And
do.
I just think there's a lot of opportunities, especially in the San Joaquin, to really engage with county boards of supervisors as an organization that we can do partnership with to move the plan along and to get traction on projects and things. And obviously there's, when you look at Tulare County and what happened, we were just talking, Tim and I were just talking about that. They did step up, and there aren't other water agencies that have this focus. And so I think we just need to not ignore, we need to be engaged with them as real good partners. And then obviously, Mary Jane, you've got a lot of experience with that as well. And I
Not
just
as many years as I do.
I just think there's a lot of opportunities there. Instead of having to reinvent the wheel on different organizations. Because as I've been really thinking a lot about how we can further the plan, it's really about setting these tables. And we obviously have a really big table set at the Yolo Bypass Cache, the project that we just heard about. We don't have those tables in a lot of other parts of the system. And so how do we build those tables? And I just think the counties can be an interesting and important partner as we think about that.
You're the chair.
Yes, thank you for that. Member Grego?
Yes, exactly. CSAC is a great avenue for, educating county supervisors. And there's another organization, they used to be called the Local Government Commission. They're called Civic Well now. And
Local Government Commission.
yeah, and which our chairwoman, Jane, was one of the founding members of the Iwani Principles and very active member of that organization. But they have an annual conference every year, and I've been talking to our president about attending for the same reason, is educating those county and city officials about the plan and how it affects them. And so I think this is perfect, that education component.
Thank you for that. Yes, the Local Government Commission changed its name, which I don't like, but that's their choice. Is a broader group. It's city council, it's local water districts, it's county service areas, school districts, and board of supervisors. And we do talk about educating them, but I think the attendance at those, as I'm sure Member Bosler found out, is that they help to educate us about how best to work with them. And there is some burgeoning and positive effort to identify the leaders in each county, starting with boards of supervisors, for how to really proactively address circumstances of flooding in the San Joaquin Valley. So it's a process. It's not going to be overnight, but it's moving. Mr. Johnson, you're looking at me. I know you want to talk.
If we're doing
I want you to.
board comments and committee updates.
Okay, board comments and committee updates. You can go
It
first.
sounded like we started into that one, so I can report on the advisory committee, which met this Wednesday. President Dolan and I presided over that meeting, supported by Ruth Darling and other board staff, and we had a very good presentation on floodplains reimagined effort, and they described also some related work called Floodplains Forward. And this presentation, if you're not familiar with this group, I can forward the PowerPoint around or ask Ruth to forward it around to everybody. And we had Louis Bear from RD 108 and Barry O'Regan and Holly Dolly from KSN and Julie Leinbach presenting. And it was a very good meeting and very much the type of thing that we need to see in order to make progress around the state. We have a lot of local leaders and landowners and people providing technical support to each other and banding together to raise funds for ways to support landowners in making good decisions and other locally led multi-benefit projects. And the pipeline is already starting to be refreshed with good things coming from it, and there will be a lot more to come. So we were happy about that meeting, and we look forward to seeing more.
It was good. I'm glad it did meet. An excellent presentation. And there'll probably be a time that it can be shared here. It's Sacramento Valley efforts. You know. My Sacramento Valley are leaders on a lot of things, so we're happy to share. Member Bosler, you have more to say. You've been traveling. Nice to see you. Member Ramirez? Okay. How's that San Joaquin Valley?
Still there.
Yeah, we're hoping it remains. I'm not going to ask Member Countryman, he's too echoey. Member Griego.
Yes, I had the opportunity to attend the Hallwood Side Channel project. And so to just give you some history, I was actually on the board of directors for the Yuba Water Agency when that project started. Then in my, the next hat I was wearing was working for Congressman Garamendi when he gave leadership to that project as well. And then I was invited as a board member here to be, well, there it is on the front page of the Appeal Democrat, our local newspaper. And so there was a lot of partners that were in attendance from the federal, state, and local side. I think the Circle, their presentation was well done and how they partnered with the Yuba Water Agency. But I really took away from the general manager, Willie Willitsey, from the Yuba Water Agency. And I think kind of goes hand in hand with Board Member Keeley in regards to how we look at projects. You know, the way we look at projects today has to be different than they did before. We have to take into account what we know about science and weather patterns and how we build that infrastructure. And the one thing that Willie said was that we have to be creative nowadays when we look at infrastructure and preparing for the future, because that infrastructure is costly and you don't get but maybe one chance at doing it right the first time. So it was great to see the project. And basically the project involved of taking down hydraulic walls. I mean, the hydraulic mining that occurred in Nevada County and the impacts that it had in Yuba County. It was the first environmental act that was passed down in history was for Yuba County. It was covering up all our farmland, and through that process, they created these walls of aggregate. And this project, the Hallwood Side Channel, took down a wall of aggregate, and it was for flood control. It reduced the flood, the water elevation. It was also for the environment. The salmons now have the ability to spawn in areas where they hadn't before, and water reliability, which is vital for our farming communities. So just wanted to share that with you and tell you that it's exciting to see these creative projects come about. And relatively, I think it was 14 years. So that's nice to see as well. Thank you.
Well, that's almost cutting the time frame of getting most benefit projects done. It is stunning how long it can take, but we're getting better. We're getting better. Hamilton City only took 28 years. That's why you have to hang around. Thank you for that. Mr. Vice President?
I'm good.
You are. Thank you for that. Okay, any other board comments? Anybody have questions of those? I see none. Any hands up?
No hands raised online.
Yes, sir, it's right here. Member Bosler.
Well, I just wanted to follow up with Board Member Griego. It's really, this project is such an exciting thing, and it was a long time in the making, and it was impressive to me, just the stamina and the resiliency of the people involved to see the vision and to see it executed. And I've been talking to other people that have these legacy mining tailings around the state, and they're buoyed. They're excited to hear that this was a success, you know, even though it took a long time. Because this is not the only place in the state that's got this legacy issue of hydraulic mining, and it's important for people to see that there can be an outcome, a success. So.
And just to follow up with that, it's a very sensitive issue, you know, based on where you're at in the system. But I think what we did is we proved that there is the ability to work on flood control, but also address those multi-benefits with the environment and water reliability. I think those are wins, and it doesn't have to always be anticipated as a detriment when you move, you know, product around in the river. And for us, you know, when we look at the river, the Yuba and the Feather, if we were to do some shallow dredging in those areas, not extensive dredging, but I think there would be a benefit, not only because you make the water colder for the fish, you know, so there's the benefit there, but you also create capacity for water to exist, and that's a flood control component of it. So it's not perfect for every jurisdiction, but in this case, it certainly led a good example. Thank you.
Thank you for all your information on that. You have a right to be proud of the work that was done, and you have an obligation to tell us how you helped. Anything else? Maybe we can have a workshop on what's going on with the old gravel pits. That's the biggest pit of all. Okay, upcoming meetings. We have a board workshop on Friday, December 8th. We'll be at the Sacramento Area Council of Governments location. This is a meeting where we will hear in-person presentations of each of our units of work. And then we have a celebratory annual luncheon as well. So I'll let you all know that. Our next business board meeting is Friday, December 15th. In November and December, we don't meet on the fourth Friday because we don't.
There are other things going on.
Do I have to say? There are other things going on. So we'll be back here at Sacramento City Hall on the 15th. I don't think there are any other committee meetings to be noticed. We're working on the 2024 schedule for all of that, so we'll have that before us on that meeting of the 15th. We have no closed session, so we have no closed session report. Is there anything else for the good of the order besides that clock that's in error? No, they fixed it.
No, so good, so it's good.
There's something about the glare.
It was glare, okay. It's always worked. It's just me and my eyesight. I'll go fix it. All right? That's it. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.